Ever wondered if that spark you feel for someone is mutual, even if they seem completely out of your league? For gay men looking for real-life romance, this story is for you. Here, how quiet observations turned into a breathtaking confession when a doctor revealed his deep, unspoken admiration for someone he saw every single day. You won't believe how this connection truly began. The first time I saw Marcus Chen, I knew I was in trouble. It was a Thursday evening in downtown Seattle, and I had just finished a grueling 16-hour shift at Seattle General Hospital. The rain was coming down in that persistent northwest way when this man walked out of the law office across the street from my building, tall with broad shoulders that filled out his navy suit jacket perfectly, and black hair styled with just enough precision to look effortless. He carried himself with the kind of quiet confidence that made people instinctively trust him. Briefcase in one hand, phone pressed to his ear with the other. My name is Dr. James Morrison, and at 35, I thought I'd seen enough of life to not be caught off guard by attraction anymore. I'd been practicing emergency medicine for 8 years, worked my way through medical school and residency, earned the respect of my colleagues. But watching Marcus navigate the crosswalk with those long, purposeful strides, his voice carrying just enough to catch the authoritative tone he used with whoever was on the other end of that call, I felt like a med student all over again. "Who's the guy from Chen and Associates?" I asked my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, the next morning, as we both collected our mail. "That's Marcus Chen. He's a partner at the firm across the street. Moved into 4B about 6 months ago. Criminal defense attorney, I think. Very polite young man." She glanced at me with a knowing smile. "Why, Doctor? Morrison, professional interest?" If only she knew. Over the following weeks, I found myself timing my comings and goings to catch glimpses of Marcus. I learned his patterns. How he left for work at exactly 7:30 a.m., always with that same leather briefcase and a travel mug of coffee. How he had this habit of running his hand along his jawline when he was on an important call. How his voice carried just the right amount of authority when he was arguing a point, with the faintest trace of his parents' Taiwanese accent creeping through when he was passionate about something. I told myself I was just being observant, neighborly interest. But deep down, I knew I was memorizing everything about this man, who seemed completely out of my reach. Marcus Chen was sophisticated in a way that made me acutely aware of my own workaholic lifestyle. He had his JD from Harvard, spoke fluent Mandarin, and I'd seen him in the lobby reading legal briefs that looked like they belonged in Supreme Court cases. Meanwhile, I was a kid from rural Oregon who'd worked 2 jobs to get through undergrad, whose idea of relaxation was collapsing on my couch with leftover takeout and whatever was on Netflix. The distance between us felt insurmountable, but I couldn't stop watching. I noticed how he always held the elevator door for other residents, no matter how late he was running. I saw how he was unfailingly professional with everyone, but there was something guarded in his dark eyes that suggested he kept his personal life carefully compartmentalized. I observed how he often came home late, past 9 p.m., with a kind of exhaustion that went deeper than just long hours, as if the work was both his passion and his burden. 4 months passed like this. 4 months of stolen glances in the lobby, of manufacturing reasons to check my mail when I heard his footsteps in the hallway, of lying awake at night, imagining conversations we'd never have. Then came the night of the Fletcher case verdict. I was coming home from a particularly brutal shift, We'd lost a patient, a teenager in a car accident, and I was carrying that weight the way doctors always do. It was past 11 p.m. when the elevator doors opened on our floor, and I nearly walked into Marcus. He was leaning against the wall outside his apartment, still in his court attire, but with his tie loosened and his usually perfect hair disheveled. "Rough night?" I asked, immediately regretting how exhausted I sounded. Marcus looked up, and I could see something raw in his expression. Lost a case today. Kid who should have gotten a second chance. He managed a tired smile. "Sorry, you probably don't want to hear about other people's problems after whatever you've been dealing with at the hospital." "Actually," I said, surprising myself with my honesty, "sometimes it helps to know someone else understands what it feels like to carry that weight." We stood there in the hallway for a moment, two men who'd built their lives around helping others, both carrying the burden of the ones we couldn't save. "I've been watching you," Marcus said quietly, and my heart nearly stopped. "Coming and going at all hours, always looking like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. Emergency medicine, right? How did you... the way you carry yourself. Always ready to move fast if needed. Plus, I may have asked Mrs. Patterson." There was the hint of a smile in his voice. "I've been curious about the doctor across the hall who seems to work as much as I do. The admission should have made me feel exposed. Instead, all I could think about was how his voice had a warm quality that his professional demeanor usually masked. How there was something vulnerable in his expression that had nothing to do with his lost case. "Want to grab a drink?" I heard myself asking. "There's a quiet bar around the corner. Might do us both some good." Marcus looked at me for a long moment, and I could see him weighing something in his mind. "You know what? Yeah, I'd like that." As we walked towards the elevator together, I was trying to memorize this moment. The way he moved with less precision now that the day's armor was coming off. The way he seemed genuinely interested in talking to someone who understood the weight of responsibility. The way this felt like the beginning of something I'd been hoping for without daring to admit it. "James," he said as we waited for the elevator, and hearing my name in his voice made something tight in my chest loosen. "Can I ask you something?" I nodded my head, and he immediately came closer. "Why should we wait finishing our drinks just to kiss?" He suddenly pushed the stop button. I instantly asked, "Just to kiss?" Now I wasn't gonna wait. Our lips met, and we started to explore our bodies with hands all over each other's bodies. He unbuttoned his shirt, got rid of his jacket, and I just put my hands into his pants while he was grabbing my ass. Everything was out of our hands, and we quickly lost ourselves in the moment. The pleasure was amazing, and our grunting were exploding in that elevator. The tides were rising, our sweat mixed up, and with his final groan, we reached where we felt numb and satisfied. We never went to that corner pub, but the next 4 months we gradually become an eye-catcher couple. I never would have guessed that I can even be considered by this magnificent man. It is true as they say, love can find you in awkward times.